Hello and welcome back to Aston Martin and F1 Manager 2022. 2 races to go. And to somewhat quote Dominic Toretto, this is Brazil. But we do have to sort out next year's car first, as we've got the new ATR period and 2 spaces of development. I have done no projects on side pods or chassis, so we'll do those. I thought I was already working on a chassis, but it must be the rear wing. And because I do not think the other research we're doing right now will be done in enough time to get another one in, I'm just going to straight up split the hours remaining. I am going to have to divvy up the remaining engineers 3 and 2 though, just because we've still only got 10 of those. But I might as well just split these 50-50. It only take 30 days to research this actually. We might be able to get another one in. It only take 30 days to research. And just because we're losing airflow, I'm going to maximize that there. And I think just because this one's only going to take 30 days, I'm going to do the 2 engineers on this. 110 grand it's going to take to do that. That's ridiculous. And side pods haven't been done either, so we'll research side pods with all of the remainder. And this is a lot of airflow situations as well. And that one will take longer. But we'll put all 3 remaining engineers on that one, and that's 180 grand. Researching for next year is remarkably cheap. That's probably something that needs balancing. But I'm pretty certain there's nothing to do in regards to the schedules. And indeed, there was not. Q3 is the standard target this time round, so Q2 will pop in and wait, whether 2 drivers are getting Q2. And this is the other one as well. I keep forgetting that the qualifying position is negotiable. Now I can either say 2 drivers top 15. Now bear in mind that Seb qualified 15th, 14th and 12th I think in the last 3 races. Or I could just say 1 person in Q1 and that's 151 grand. I'm actually more confident of 2 drivers top 15. Finish position is the one I can't change, so fastest lap we'll ignore. And there's a new finish position. Of course, it can only be 2 races because there's only 2 remaining. And it requires both drivers top 15. I'm going to change this to 2 drivers, 1 driver. I'm going to change this to 1 driver finishing in the top 12. I feel that's like the most confident I can get that we can definitely do. I'm just hedging my bets in case there's an incident and one of our drivers retires. I keep forgetting they're negotiable, but it's time to actually get to Brazil.
The carnival atmosphere has already started here in Sao Paulo as Brazil welcomes the Formula One Grand Prix. The Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache has been a staple of the racing calendar for decades, and soon we'll once again be watching the best drivers in the world give it their all. The Sao Paulo track is beautifully designed to present an enticing challenge for teams and drivers alike. Between medium-speed S-corners, hill climbs, and the high-speed section after Junção, this circuit calls for cars to have a balanced setup to succeed here. What will happen this weekend? Only time will tell.
Time will indeed tell, but time will progress without you seeing me because, as always, I'll bring you straight in for qualifying. But a quick note about practice, because there's only 2 races remaining and we're pretty certain at this point that Seb probably isn't sticking around just because of financial reasons and the fact he keeps crashing a little bit more than I would like him to. I'm popping in Ollie Caldwell as the first practice in the remaining 2. I thought I'd mention that. Anyway, see you in a moment. Well, it seems the Ferraris hate Pierre Gasly for some reason. I can only presume it was Carlos Sainz that took Pierre out in that last practice session. Thank God I made extra front wings for that exact purpose. He damaged his chassis, so we might be down a chassis as well, but Carlos Sainz already had a penalty, so I can only assume it was Carlos Sainz who was also involved in that incident, because Charles Leclerc is penalty-free and the Ferrari was definitely at fault. Pierre doesn't have a penalty at all, so Ocon, Ricciardo, Magnussen, along with 3 of the back markers, have penalties. Seb, of course, we didn't run in practice 1, so he's lacking in track acclimatization, which I'm hoping is the main reason why he's so bad. The Haas's have got a bit of pace again, so it looks like they brought an update for some reason in the penultimate race. And the Alpines look a little bit faster again, and most importantly, the Alfa Romeos look a little bit faster again. Zhou Guanyu in particular, seemingly a little bit up the rankings more than he has been of late. So fingers crossed actually that Alfa Romeo can stay ahead of us in the constructors. And it's a weird thing to say, but I want them to be ahead, and it is indeed only 14 out of 15 for Seb because of that. But so with everyone with a clean lap, there's a few obvious contenders for hindered laps. Albon, Tsunoda, Zhou probably, Norris probably, definitely Alonso. The concerning part is Magnussen. He's on pace with Vettel. The Haas's are back in the picture. In the real world, none of that top 6 will go out again, so it will only be 14 cars driving around. Alas, this is F1 Manager, so all 20 will be there, and getting a clean spot is problematic as cars have come out on 2:30. Okay, I was expecting another 10 seconds there. We'll definitely wait for that Williams to get out of the way, and I just realised once again we're looking at the slower end of the pit lane, not the faster end. Up. You know what? I'm just going to send Gasly out now. He doesn't need this as much. I'm slightly concerned about the faster cars behind. I'm going to click Vettel now, and if he gets out ahead of someone, great. If he doesn't, then he's behind all the faster cars. There's an Alpine, and this will be Seb now, I imagine. Importantly, the other Williams is behind Seb. Well, by the time Sebastian Vettel's on the start straight to start his flying lap, Bottas is rounding the final few corners. It's not going to be a problem. There's not going to be any interference from the back end to the front end, but it's interesting, obviously, with it only being a 110 lap, how far the front end of this final lap, flying lap queue got. Gasly's like right in the middle of this as well. I know Zhou came off at some point during the lap, whether it was during the warm-up lap or flying lap, I don't know, but Gasly's the one immediately behind him. So I don't know if Gasly got hindered by Zhou coming off or not. But we're on board with Sebastian Vettel as he goes through the middle section of this lap. We should probably actually see if he's gone faster. He hasn't. Pierre went slower in all 3 sectors somehow and still improved. So actually he only went slower in the first 2 sectors. But Vettel completing his second sector has actually gone least faster in the middle sector, down to 15th. Magnussen's crossed the line and gone slower than his previous lap because I can see the delta between Magnussen and Vettel is still the same. It's only Latifi and Mick that can knock him out at this point, and I don't think either of them are capable of it. Vettel improved by 2 1,000ths. Genuinely, what is the point? I now realise Bottas crossed the line with enough time to do another flying lap. He probably isn't, but it's interesting that he did. So we now have to wait for him to actually get into his pit box. So first round complete again, and whilst both drivers did have clean laps, of course they're on old tyres, but I imagine a lot of other drivers were as well. I think realistically in this session we're looking that Vettel's probably going to drop out, maybe both McLarens by the looks of things, along with Magnussen. Ocon might get through. I get the sneaking suspicion this is going to be Ocon versus Zhou, but Gasly does need to improve his time on these clean tyres, just to feel that little bit safer. Alonso are in 5th though. So Gasly will come out in whatever the first break in these faster cars is, and Seb will take the next one, which I think is actually just behind the whole lot of them. We'll go on board with Pierre to begin with. So if Seb was actually the penultimate driver on track, is either Zhou or Bottas behind him. Looks like a Ferrari's caught a McLaren at the very beginning in Sector 1, which can't be good for either of their laps. Not that it matters for the Ferraris, who probably, again, wouldn't have come out if this was a regular session. For immersion's sake, I think that should be a thing. I think if teams are significantly ahead of the cutoff point, they should probably not send their driver. It also adds a bit of extra jeopardy, maybe, if a team doesn't send their driver out on an evolving track and gets caught out. At the moment, it's a bit boring, the fact that they send them out again. And it just adds to the congestion, too. Hamilton crosses the line, goes 5th. But Pierre has gone faster, and Seb has gone faster in first sectors. It's not always a guarantee with Pierre. In fact, he's actually gone slower in the second sector. I don't know why Pierre doesn't always go faster on new tyres, but Seb has. Daniel Ricciardo goes up to 11th, Norris stays 14th, Magnussen stayed in the drop zone, Pierre gets within a second of the fastest. Zhou is obviously the last one across. We'll actually switch to Seb, who's crossing the line now. 2 100ths. 2 100ths, and I think it was a good thing that Gasly improved. I don't know if Zhou's time would have been his old time. I was worried about Sainz there. That's why I went off 16 there. We'll use the new soft tyres because they're clearly not good enough for the race. Surprisingly slow times from a lot of people in Q1. Hamilton, Ocon, Bottas and Verstappen all quite slow. Just realised Ocon actually did get into Q3. He was the one that actually entered the top 10 and put Pierre down to 10th. Overlooked that. But Bottas got in and something clearly happened. And something clearly happened to Hamilton and probably Verstappen too. But I might as well just wait to get to the back of the queue with Pierre because there's only 10 drivers now. And they're all pretty much faster. I should just use this view now, I realise. I can't believe it's taken me this long to realise I should just use the map view for working out when to get my drivers out, because obviously I can see the entire pit lane in that situation and see who's still in and who's not. But Pierre on his flying lap now will go on outboard for this version. And Pierre is last of the 10. Does have Alpine on the track ahead of him, which may or may not be helping, I don't know. I'm not 100% certain what kind of speed boosting effects are in the game, aside from DRS. There's an implication that dirty air is in the game, obviously because of the dirty air cornering attributes. But whether a toe is accurately modelled is a different question entirely. And I should have looked at his sectors. Oh, he is faster in both sectors, so good news. Russell up to 5th. That's Ocon up to 7th. Bottas up to 8th. Hamilton up to 5th. And Gasly now. Can he use up any of these 9 drivers? No. How incredibly boring. It annoys me that there's not more improvement in times. I do feel like track evolution isn't as much of a thing in the game as it is in real life either. It'd be great if there was like proper hundredths improvement from session to session and from beginning to end, but there isn't. I'm intrigued to know what car size penalty or penalties are. I'll move out of the way a little bit more because obviously he had one originally just for parts, but then he may have got another one for hitting Pierre Gasly in practice, so he could well be at the very back of the grid, which makes the title fight interesting. Ocon probably goes behind Gasly because I think the minimum is 3 places. And same with Daniel Ricciardo and Magnussen. I imagine Vettel's getting at least 2 places of gain, 3 if Sainz's stack.
Here we are, folks. We're back for another day of scintillating F1 action. It's race day. Here we go, folks. This is the Sao Paulo Grand Prix.
Let's actually have a look at the info. 71 laps of Interlagos. There's many laps here. Expected strategies are all 2 stoppers, which kind of makes sense, judging by the tyre wear. At least the softs are the fastest average lap. We are likely to see at least one version of hard and medium, and at least all strategies will be immediately apparent after the first round of pit stops, because you'll either be medium, medium hard, or soft hard. There's no duplicates in that. So we'll immediately know what we're up against. It's a short lap and I've forgotten what the DRS situation is as well. It's definitely on the main straight and it might be on the following straight, but I can't remember if it's double DRS or just single detection points for both. I think it might be separate detection points. Although that one makes sense because they're effectively back to back, it might just be one detection point for the pair of them. I'm trying to think of how powerful the DRS is going to be here. It's not going to be quite as potent as it was in Austria or Mexico just because there's less DRS points. But because effectively the more DRS there is, the more reliance is on better tyres to stay in them. I think with Pierre we go medium, hard, because if the cars around him pit onto mediums, if the cars around him pit onto hards, then we can make that same judgment 1 lap later. There's space to do it, and then we can stay on their strategy. Whereas if we're trying to hold on to faster cars and they stay on medium, then we're going to want to go medium as well. The one thing I don't like about doing medium is you haven't done the both tyre situation early in the race. So if there's a safety car, it causes a problem. Seb's fine, he's doing soft, hard, medium, because he's the better on his tyres, and I prefer him to have faster tyres at the beginning. I'll also remember to do these while I'm here. Right then, race time.
I don't want to tempt fate, but there are quite a few clouds overhead as we look at the lineup on the grid. There we have Pierre Gasly. Not as close to the front as they might have wished for, but we know the race order can change a lot during those first few corners. And for the second driver, it's Sebastian Vettel. A top 10 position today, but will they be able to capitalise on it? The race start is mere seconds away. Who will win? Only time will tell. Here at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
I was confused by Crofty saying that Pierre wasn't as close to the front as he would like. He does start 8th, and Vettel does start 10th. Did forget to look at that before the race began, but Sainz starts all the way down to 17th-ish. Magnussen's penalty brought him towards the back, as did Ocon's. And it is still 8th and 10th for Gasly and Vettel as we go into turn 3. I would probably guess that's called, unless the long left-hander is turn 3. Should have double-checked that as well, but it does look like Vettel has got Zhou now. We'll let our drivers race temporarily, because they will mess up Vettel if we don't. But we're hoping... Oh my Lord, Pierre, that's a lovely move. Provided you can keep it stick there.
You're doing a good job.
Keep it stuck. Make it stick, that's the phrase. Got there in the end. Blimey, words are hard. In fact, he's going for... Well, we'll look at the fun times first. This is a lovely move. Down the inside, screenshot worthy. And then it all goes wrong on Alonso. Pierre, get things going again. Pierre. Excellent highlight. Oh, he has got back on track with the penalty. And that is why I only had one driver on my streak.
Let's take a look at the replay.
Streak incentive. At least Seb's now doing okay things. He's got Bottas there through the first couple of corners. No DRS yet, of course. I mean, Pierre doing that is actually kind of a blessing in disguise in the long run, because both Alfa Romeos are 7th and 8th now, and Pierre's out of the points, and dramatically out of the points. So who's gone wide? Doesn't look like anyone's detrimentally fallen out of anything. So whoever it was, Bottas, in fact. I'm keeping Vettel running hard here because he could get into the DRS of Hamilton by the time it activates. And he has. Do want to just double check that situation. It is in fact two separate detection points, which is a little surprising considering their placement. Because if you have the DRS on the first one, you're pretty much guaranteed to have the DRS on the second one anyway. But at the same time, if you overtake someone in the first one, then it allows them to re-overtake on the second one, so it might get a bit back and forth. I don't know which one's better. A single double is probably better. But it does mean actually there will be DRS at this stage already on the lap, because the lap begins and there's immediately a detection point for DRS. Which Vettel now has. Which means he can go less aggressive on these tyres now.
Back off.
Can't deploy anymore, of course, either. Of course, the problem is I can't keep Vettel up at this kind of level for long. Pierre's got a little bit more wiggle room. Vettel's holding in here, actually. I wasn't expecting him to hold his own through the remainder of that lap as well as he has. But he stayed within DRS for the main straight, so good news. It looks like Vettel can hold on. And now, of course, he'll have the benefit of 2 sets of DRS to stay within touch. Which means he could probably actually come down to just standard now, which is what he's going to have to do if he wants to get to the end of the race. But Vettel is now effectively demonstrating what I was talking about when considering Gasly's strategy.
Still a lot to play for.
Vettel is a soft runner versus 2 medium runners here.
Alpine just advanced.
I thought this would be the case for Alonso and Gasly. They're just going to swap places constantly. Well, I was trying to catch up to... Oh, they already have Albon. I wasn't expecting them to maybe get up to the back of him that quickly. In fact, Alonso's just decided to overtake Albon outside of a DRS zone. In case you're wondering why Albon's out the back, he had penalties. So Latifi was the worst of all in qualifying. Everyone who started behind him had penalties, including his teammate. And there goes Gasly. Although, of course, Albon's got the DRS on Alonso at this moment in time. But it doesn't matter. Gasly has enough outright pace to do it regardless. And maybe behind the detection point when he passed it. It didn't show any DRS for Gasly on the car, but it was there. I saw it on the UI. But Vettel's still holding on even on medium pace. I mean, the fact these two are fighting each other is helping massively. But much like Mexico, Vettel is now being pulled along by a DRS train. Sainz is up to 13th already. It's up to Leclerc to stop Verstappen capitalising as much as he possibly can from Sainz's situation. Is that genuinely the first incident we've seen Gasly have for us? I know Gasly had an incident the race literally before we hired him. But that might be the first time he's had an incident for us. Also, he's saying Vettel's 9/10 off Hamilton. No. Seemingly, we've had another same situation. That's the Leclerc. Hello, Leclerc. Why is Gasly having issues getting through? Well, we don't really need to see the spin because we saw Leclerc was held up all the way back there. But Gasly, mate, Alonso's already through this lot. Can you hurry up? Alonso's approaching the back of his teammate now, who is in 14th. Oh, because he had a penalty. Well, Latifi doesn't have DRS. This is absolute sitting duck territory. And whilst there is fuel for both drivers, I'm not willing to use it yet. Gasly, how did you not overtake Latifi there? I'm going to push with Pierre's fuel, actually, but because I need him to get to the back of Magnussen as quickly as possible. There's a little bit of wiggle room in Gasly's tyres. But it's all about getting on what is actually effectively the back of Alonso, because it's Alonso that's pulling Magnussen at this point. I don't think he's in the detection point by the end of the lap for Magnussen, which is unfortunate. But come on, Gasly. Get caught up by the end of this straight, and then you'll be in the detection point for the next one. So Leclerc spinning, ironically, has sort of allowed Sainz to get into the top 10. So he's technically helped his teammate's title push, but not in the way he was hoping. Gasly, unfortunately, did not get in the DRS, but by the time we get around again, we should be all right. I can't harvest on Vettel because he's already on the fringes of not being in that DRS at any given moment. 7 to 8 tenths is a very much danger zone. If you tell him to harvest, he'll be outside it basically immediately. Yeah, Gasly's within a second this time round. Leclerc might be within a second behind him by the end of this lap as well. Good God, the Williams are awful. But it'd be nice not to have the interference of Leclerc for a lap, in the hope that Gasly can negotiate Magnussen. Right, so within range again, we can come back. You can see actually fuel-wise, he's going to make it regardless at this point if he goes balanced. This is what you should actually be looking at in regards to fuel. As long as there is some at the end, you're okay. regardless of what it says in terms of the delta, because the delta is just a projection based on your current driving. That, I think, is just based on... Oh, it's updated now. Never mind. Yeah, so it's going to run out now, apparently. So maybe that's based on your current driving as well. Alonso isn't catching his teammate, which is a problem. I'll tell Gasly to harvest, because we might need to go overtake on this pair. Just to get back into the fight. Meanwhile, Vettel is continuing just to hang on in there. As his tyres slowly dwindle as well. That's part of the problem here. Can't be far off his pit. Oh, God. Pit window's in 5 laps. It's further than I thought. Jose had a Bottas, remarkably. I almost don't mind Leclerc getting through first. Leclerc might help split off Magnussen. Once again, I'm occasionally getting lied to in regards to Vettel. He keeps saying he's 9/10 behind when he just absolutely isn't. It does update seemingly a lot faster than they did in Mexico. I'm not bothered watching that. But Ferrari's on Magnussen now, and I'm hoping Ferrari splits it off. Something happened to Stroll. Well, Stroll and Ocon are fighting to the point where they're falling into Alonso now. Alonso didn't seem to be gaining by himself. We'll take that bit of harvest for Gasly, and we'll just leave it there because I don't want him to fall too far back. A couple laps later, and it's Leclerc's actually having it. Sorry, Vettel. I mean, best case scenario, Hamilton gets him back so he maintains DRS, but Hamilton, please get the place back. Please get the place back, Lewis, because I want Seb to have the DRS. At the very least, he'll be ahead by the line. I'm gonna say, if Seb at any point doesn't have DRS, that's going to be a huge problem. I don't know if it's whether just... I don't know whether it's... It might well be just the case that Hamilton lost the DRS on Russell, and then it became just a two-way fight between Vettel and Hamilton, which made it easier for him to try and overtake. Right, so Gasly's going to get Stroll here. Gasly's going to get Stroll here. There we go. Needs to push again because Stroll's held him up. We'll watch the replay of him overtaking the banner he replaced. There we are. Janky animations aside there. Nicely done. It's weird, the AlphaTauri numbers are grey on a grey car, so they don't work on their own car, but because Stroll and Gasly swap places, the sort of blacky grey number, the grey-black number on Pierre's car, still is visible on the green, but the white number that's normally on the Aston Martin is actually visible on the AlphaTauri. Tsunoda's isn't. You can't see Tsunoda's number, but because Stroll came from Aston Martin, you can see his number. It's quite funny. But yeah, we're back in range again, so that's all good. And Stroll's outside the second, actually, by the time we hit the line, so even better. How many laps until Vettel needs to come in? One pit window opens in 1. How are we doing on tyres for Pierre? I knew we were going to be under, but it's not going to be too much of an issue. Yeah, Pierre's finding it slightly harder to get through the field. Sainz is now through, basically, the entire pack. And is closing on Vettel, lap by lap, I imagine now. It's only lap 14, he's up to 6th. So ideally, what we're hoping for is one of these cars to break out of their DRS mix out of Leclerc's. So this is perfect news for Pierre. So we don't bother pushing Seb's tyres for... Oh, God. Do we bother pushing Seb's tyres because he's out of DRS? We'll just push Seb's tyres now, and he has to come in a lap early, comes in a lap early. He's better on his tyres, so he's got basically a lap's grace combined between the 2 remaining stints. Probably. But he's out of DRS from Hamilton, which is a problem. In fact, Sainz is gaining regardless. We might as well harvest while he's doing this, just so he's got a little bit of wiggle room. Meanwhile, Gasly got to go a lot further. Pit window opens in 4, so that means he's got to pit in 7 laps. He's on 56% medium tyres. Yeah, he did go under quite early on, so... But he had a little bit of grace period at the end of this stint anyway, so it might cancel itself out if he remains on standard. I'm going to stick him on overtake deploy, so he can maybe get Mick on this first straight, and then hopefully he can get Magnussen on the next. Because I now realise Magnussen's dramatically fallen off the back of Alonso. Ah! Gasly, get past him! Just do everything on this straight and get past him. This is what I said. Mick might be the teammate next year. I haven't fully decided, but... I am kind of leaning towards Mick. I know he's not great, sort of rating-wise in the game, but if I can't have Seb because of financial stupidity, then I want his protege. Unbelievably, all that I harvested with Pierre is now gone, and he's still not past Mick. I might have to bring Pierre in early here. No, it's Sainz, mate. What were you expecting? You've got him back anyway. Nearly. But you're saving your rest at this point, sir, because you're about to pit. You might actually about have another lap's worth of tyre wear, so you might be right here. Because you'll get the DRS off Sainz. I don't know why Pierre's having such a problem. Part of me definitely wants to go... Part of me wants to go on the hards and run longer. Part of me wants to flip Gasly's strategy. Because it gets him in earlier, which means the tyre is not as much of a problem. And it typically means he's probably going to be first on these as well. So he'll be able to undercut these two. There's been an incident in Sector 2. It's just Stroll going off again. So yeah, the soft runners are in. Alonso was a soft runner? I don't remember Alonso being a soft runner. So Gasly's tyres are on 48 now. He actually only has 3 laps before he comes in, so we might as well just attack him. Sector 1's had an incident. Alonso pitted and ended up behind Tsunoda and the Williamses, because Tsunoda pitted as well, but not sure what that interruption was, but another car's gone wide somewhere. Magnussen. Oh, Magnussen's had a moment. That's important. Now it's only Mick to clear with Gasly. We've lost 7 seconds to Ocon being stuck behind Magnussen and Mick Schumacher. I mean, we are harvesting at the same time, and there's still a... Oh, there's another flag in Sector 2 because Russell's gone wide. We were still harvesting with Gasly, which is part of the problem. I was kind of hoping you could do the job whilst harvesting. And he is. Probably. There we go.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Seb on the outlap now needs to deploy, I now realise, rather than harvesting. In fact, if Seb can get on the back of Magnussen whilst we're here, we might as well do that. Seb pitted and came out ahead of Stroll. His former teammate. But Vettel should get within DRS range of Magnussen by the end of this straight, which will at the very least allow me to take him off deploy temporarily. Vettel's past Ricciardo. Well, he was already ahead of him anyway. Vettel doesn't have a lot of wiggle room on any of these tyre stints, so 1 lap of aggression now has to come down. Fuel needs to come off for Pierre. Gasly didn't drop Mick, which is marginally annoying, but now Hamilton and Sainz are now in, so this is what Vettel's got to deal with. So I might actually slap on overtake here for Seb so he gets past Magnussen, if Magnussen doesn't pit anyway. There's a chance he does. Well, not like that. Oh, God, he cut in front of him. We'll keep the fuel safe on Seb. The good news is Vettel is still clear of Bottas, who is effectively the one he's fighting at this point. So Hamilton pitted and came out miles ahead still. Yeah, Hamilton's 6 seconds ahead of Vettel now, which is not great, but when Russell pits, that's going to be the important one. Vettel is 5 still ahead of Bottas, and he was 5 ahead of him before he pitted, I think, so that's still fine. Gasly might have DRS on Sainz, I've just realised, but he's pitting this lap anyway. But Sainz might have just helped him out there. Perez, Leclerc, Zhou and Russell all in. Gasly and Mick in as well. We'll focus on Gasly as this happens, but we do kind of want to pay attention to Vettel and see where Russell comes out, because Russell had a moment, so we might just quickly focus on Russell coming out of the pits. And Vettel is ahead, it seems. There is Vettel on the road, ahead of... Oh, God, he's going to be in DRS range. But Gasly's now exiting the pit lane. Mick's jumped him in the pits somehow. We'll deploy. We'll smash up the fuel. How is Gasly 2 seconds behind Mick Schumacher now? He came into the pits ahead of him. Did we have a poor pit stop and I didn't notice? Oh, it's because we had the 5-second delay. That's why. Of course, the penalty. Actually, how is Gasly only 2 seconds behind Mick? There must be someone else in the pit lane that held Mick up. It's all right. Sainz is up to 3rd. Sainz started in the back 4. But yeah, Gasly, just keep pushing, mate, until you get into range of Mick, and then we can pull you off both of these. All of these, in fact. You've got a little bit of wiggle room, but not a great deal. Right, so we're entering the final few corners. We'll just be tactical with Pierre. Getting past Mick is the most important part of this. Mick absolutely just cut him off. I do love the AI draining the battery in places where you shouldn't even be using battery. Oh no, Seb, you lost the place to a Mercedes. I'll push the... Well, we watched that one because you haven't really watched that many highlights.
This was the Aston Martin.
On the inside of the Haas. Haas have got a bit more pace again this race as well. So it's good to see a couple of people, a couple of the constructors who lost a bit of pace in recent weeks have found a bit again. It's made this race a lot more competitive than the last couple. Right, so second broken on Mick Schumacher. Gasly can now just run at normal for the remainder of his stint on these hards. And now Leclerc's got Vettel, but let's be real. I think Vettel will fall back into the Alfa Romeo fight behind, but there's not really a lot I can do about that. And actually, at this point, there's not a lot I can do about anything. We just have to hope Gasly slowly sidles up on the back of the Ricciardo in situation. In fact, I could just take this opportunity to harvest a bit. There's been an incident. Multiple cars have crashed. There is a safety car. There is a safety car at the worst possible moment. I've had a look and I can't really do anything with the strategy. Just call the replay. So it's Norris is out. So is it the AlphaTauri behind? It's the AlphaTauri behind. That's Tsunoda because I can't see his number. So it's Tsunoda on Norris.
A bitter blow for the team.
I mean, the car's out, so yeah, obviously it's hurt his chances, Crofty. Now, the good news is it does close the gap from Vettel to Russell, which somehow got up to 8 seconds there. But it also allows Bottas to get on the back of them. So Vettel will catch the safety car. To the very least, we can harvest with Seb, and Gasly can harvest as well, because he's just caught it too. Out of curiosity, who is the first lapped vehicle? Oh, it's just the Williams that have been lapped and been released. So there'll be nobody lapped, unless they're already a lap down. Okay, yeah, well, they'll be lapped soon anyway, because the safety car's coming in early. We'll prepare the restart. Even if we can't see the restart, we'll go on board. So Gasly is now, of course, on the back of Alonso. We don't have enough ERS to click deploy on either of them, but here we go. So Pierre Gasly had to lift off there for a briefish moment. It brings Alonso back into the race as well a bit more. Come on, Pierre. Come on, Seb. The safety car's obviously going to help your tyres a tiny bit, but not by much. Get one place, either of you. I mean, Vettel doesn't really matter because he's on Russell, but come on, Pierre. Get one place in here. That's an interesting move. If you can make it stick, this is going to be magic. Please don't be a weird yield spot on the middle of these sweeping corners. There isn't. Oh, you can just see our outright pace isn't there on the Alpine. Maybe Alonso will get Norris first. The thing with Seb actually is staying within Russell's DRS by the time the DRS activates, and Alonso's made the move on Norris in a place I was not expecting. It's Ricciardo, sorry, not Norris. Of course, Norris is out, which might make things easier for Pierre at the end of this lap. Bless the Williamses, who are like 30 seconds off the lead as well because they didn't get caught up. The DRS is enabled, and there will be DRS basically immediately again because of the locations of the DRSs. But the problem, of course, is there is a chain. That only starts with Alonso, I think. Alonso might have just got in range of Zhou, so it might actually start with Bottas. The good news is it means I can actually come off with Vettel now, probably. Probably. He doesn't really have a lot of spare. I'm going to have to come off on the tyres on Gasly. I feel like I'm being bamboozled by the fuel on Pierre now, because he's way higher than Seb on the same level of fuel. Yeah, so it's now one train from to Williams that's locked up. Ricciardo's out of a second. Whether or not he actually got DRS on Alonso, I don't really know. We'll soon find out. It looks like he did dramatically fall off Alonso on that straight, so he might not actually... I say dramatically, he just didn't gain. We can get Ricciardo, that would be nice. Okay. Everything, Pierre. Blimey, Pierre. That was the latest of late breaks on the latest of late breakers. Oh, I've accidentally clicked deploy there.
Safe fuel, safe fuel.
Let's see what happened there.
We'll watch that one on the replay because we only watched it on board. I mean, what a move that is. Round the outside of Ricciardo. Holds it all the way around.
Goodness me.
And just tucks in. Gasly, if you can close up here, that would be great. Ocon got past Bottas as well, I now notice. Okay, so he's caught up on this train with Alonso, so we can pull him off the push tyres as well. He'll have DRS through this pair. Maybe I should have kept him on the tyres because Ricciardo's just stuck in range. Gasly's just on the fastest lap. He's done a 1:11.9. Verstappen and Perez are doing 1:12.5s. Remarkable. The good news is the squabbling Ocon, Bottas, Alonso, Zhou, and ourselves now, of course, we're part of this train, is falling off the back of Vettel, who is falling off the back of George, is he? A little bit. Seb. Russell just had a bit of a moment there, which kind of helped, I think, so we're okay. Overtake failed. This is good. I hate that. Leclerc's just gone faster. Oh no, he lost his fastest lap off. I felt that Leclerc had to be the one to take Gasly's fastest lap there. That's where we're fighting. Right. Does Zhou have DRS here? Because he's not opened his flap. But it might just be a visual error. Both Alpines are now through both Alfa Romeos, which isn't good news for the constructors. I mean, as long as we don't get more than 20 points more than Alfa Romeo in the remaining two races, we stay behind them. And we maintain the sensible target for next year, which will be 5th, hopefully. I don't want the target to be 4th. Right then. Bottas is doing medium hard. Someone spun. It's a Haas. It doesn't matter. So Zhou will go onto the hards sooner than everyone else. Russell will go on hards and Leclerc will go on hards sooner than Vettel too. Sainz did a 1:11.911 exactly as well. That's exactly the same lap that Pierre did. So Leclerc must have done faster than both of those then. feel like we're being dropped here with Pierre. Alonso's found his way to the top of this queue. Marginally concerned we're being dropped with Pierre here. Come on. It'd be nice if Pierre can get in between at least one car here and not be the back of this. Well, I know Ricciardo's behind, but effectively the back of this queue because Ricciardo's basically a second off it in the first place. And actually might be out of it by the time we hit the next DRS line. Oh, McLaren. Come on, Pierre, position yourself. You've all got DRS here, but outbrake him. He didn't. But you've got very much back into decent range here, so be sensible on the tyres again, or just take show in the middle sector. Why not? Why not? That might be the first non-DRS overtake I've seen one of my drivers do in a while. That wasn't on a Williams. Just realised I never came back after a previous highlight. Probably Pierre's overtake last time round. I like it. Okay then. Oh, Vettel fell off the train, I've just noticed. I wasn't paying attention to Vettel. Oh well. It was unlikely he was going to stay on it forever anyway, so... Pit window's in 4 laps and 5 laps, so they go back to back basically. I wonder if I can harvest in this train. Can't harvest with Vettel because he's obviously driving by himself now, but it's 7 laps total until he has to pit. I mean, he's got a little bit of fuel banked, but we might just hold on to that. We'll make sure he's not harvesting during the DRS sections. That's what we might do. We might just harvest in the non-DRS part of the lap. Did he just fall out of DRS? Why did you fall out of DRS? You weren't harvesting at that point. Pierre, you madman. You might have just got it back. I don't know. He did. Okay, so it turns out we can't harvest during this. Vettel is slowly falling back into Ocon. Okay, some front runners have pit along with Guan Yu Zhou, which doesn't help because he was behind Gasly anyway. Just one less person for Gasly to have to worry about, temporarily. But Ocon is very close to being in range on Vettel, but Vettel's pit window is close. It's quite remarkable that Seb and Pierre are at the opposite ends of this trade when Pierre had a 5-minute penalty and an incident at the beginning of the race. I mean, obviously a safety car has helped, but did someone just pit out of this? No, they didn't. Russell and Leclerc have come out in traffic. How are Vettel and Gasly tyres basically the same? It'd be great if Vettel could actually hold them off.
Copy.
Come on, Seb. Hold Ocon off for the time being. Bunch this lot up. I'm not going to tell him to hold them up, like specifically, because there's too many in between, but if you can help Gasly get Bottas, that'd be great. I just realised Albon had a moment earlier on and ended up behind Latifi, but now Latifi's 14 seconds behind his teammate. Oh, it's an extra pit stop, that's why. Not Latifi doing Latifi things for once. I'd like Pierre to get Bottas here, even though I kind of don't want the Alpha to get less points than us. Alonso's pitted. Ow, this train, interestingly. Bottas won't have DRS on this next straight. We might have done. Right, pit window active for both drivers. It's 2 laps for Vettel, 3 for Gasly. So we push the tyres now. We're pushing Gasly in particular with the DRS as well. Just tell him to overtake Bottas if we can, but not on sections where you don't overtake anyway. I know what you're like with deployment, Pierre. No, we're not. So yeah, Guan Yu Zhou's pitted and come out in the middle of nowhere. No longer getting towed by the Alpines. These hards are not losing tyre wear as much as I thought they were. I was expecting them to be sub 30 by the time they pitted. Vettel will be about 30 by the time, about 39 by the time they pit, but I meant sub 40, not sub 30. Russell and Leclerc are fighting. They did clear the Hasses, which I think they were behind, or at least one of them. Ocon still hasn't cleared Vettel, worth saying. I know Vettel's pushing at this point in time, but like the bunch of us might have overcut Fernando Alonso. Did I have 2? Oh yeah, I've got 2 full sets of mediums for Seb. I could have actually gone medium in the pit stop when the safety car came out with Seb, but it wasn't really worth it. I mean, they've got like half a ERS of deployment to use at some point, but I just don't think I've got the opportunity to harvest at any given point. In fact, I might harvest with Vettel actually on this lap. So it might help back this lot into Pierre that little bit more, because Ocon's going to be released as soon as he goes into the pit lane anyway, unless they pit as well. And it will give Seb that little bit more. I was marginally concerned that Ocon was going to get into a position where Seb's just going to wipe him out when he wants to get in the pit lane. Well, they've all pitted now. So it didn't come up with a prompt for Pierre there, but it is his pit stop this lap. So he'll come at the end of this one. We'll see how Vettel does. So Bottas is in the pit box ahead of Vettel. Ocon's in the one behind. So Ocon gets back ahead. We go ahead of Bottas, of course, because that's the way it works. So it says Alonso's cleared us. Alonso undercut. Alonso undercut. And Vettel comes out more than a second behind Ocon. Zhou did well enough to stay actually within range of Bottas when he came out.
Rears are hot.
I wonder if I deploy with Vettel if we can get within a range of either Ocon. I was supposed to say Gasly's about to lead the race, but of course he's on a pit as well.
Copy.
Come on, Vettel, get within a second of Ocon. There you are. So that's going to help you, Sebastian. Whether Ocon can get within a second of Alonso, I don't know. Now, it's interesting to see where Gasly's come out. We've not focused on Gasly's pit stop, but he's going to come out. We're going to see him, maybe, momentarily. Oh my god, Gasly's got ahead. and inadvertently helped Vettel get past Ocon. Unbelievably, Gasly's ahead of Vettel now. We'll rewatch that because why have you started the highlight halfway through the move? I mean, it's beautiful teamsmanship. Shout out to Gasly's in-lap for getting in within even range of doing an undercut, considering his tyres were going. So Vettel should be within a second by the time we get to this line. I know we're deploying with Gasly, but it's just to get him within Alonso's range. Kind of hoping Vettel has enough to get within Pierre's range by the end of the straight, and he has. Maybe. Maybe not. I was a careful balancing at that, but it didn't quite work out. But we'll obviously take Gasly back as well at this stage. And Alfa Romeo are currently scoring 0 points. I mean, we're only scoring 6, so it's not cutting the gap by much. 1 lap later, Vettel's 2 seconds behind. Blimey, the pace difference is alarming.
Anything I can do?
Just keep swapping places with him, mate. I do very much get the sense the remainder of this race is going to be Gasly Alonso swapping places and Ocon Vettel swapping places. Oh, okay. There's been an incident. It's Lance Stroll. Although it looks like Magnussen caused it. No safety car, though. Just a yellow flag. We'll watch it, but I think Magnussen's the one at fault. Is he the one at the back of this queue? I mean, he's lucky he doesn't take his team out in the process. Yeah, it's Magnussen's fault.
You can clearly see the contact there.
For once, Stroll's in an incident that wasn't his fault. Doesn't affect the race in any way, shape, or form in any material way, really. But wait, something's happened with Alonso and Vettel, for that matter, because they're both respectively falling off the cars they were fighting. And now it's just the Alpines fighting each other. Gasly's now clear in 7th, and simultaneously Vettel Ocon now clear in 9th. Not really a lot I can do with either driver still. I mean, I can probably push their fuel a bit more now because we're getting towards the end of the race. Considering they've got 2 extra laps and 17 kilograms worth of fuel, I think we can push them for the remainder of the race now, fuel-wise. But I didn't do anything with the ERS. I wish I hadn't sped through, like, the time in between now is quite as much, because I don't know what's happened here. Latifi and Albon are now fighting each other. Albon has cut the gap. Where are they? Because are they... Oh, I know what's happened. In the process of lapping the Williamses, Gasly has cleared Alonso and Ocon cleared Vettel. That's what I imagine is what's happened, is once again, in the process of lapping Williamses, it's broken DRSs and then inadvertently caused a new DRS between the 2 Alpines. I say I can push the fuel. It's actually coming down quite alarmingly, the delta. More to the point, can I push the tyres? There's 10 laps remaining. I can probably push them at the end of the race without too much worry, but beyond that, yeah, I do seem to be able to clear them. Gasly might catch Stroll and Magnussen before the end of this race in terms of lapping, but that's probably about it. Gasly's dropping the Alpines. Bottas is getting close to being in range on Vettel. We might just try and stave that off a bit. There's a bit of a buffer on the Alpines. I'm just harvesting a smidge. Just Sainz has just locked up. I don't know where he was in the race, actually, but he's down to 4th now. He was ahead. I can see there's a Red Bull there. I think he may have been leading. I think Sainz may have been leading because he's now 4th and behind the Red Bull that was clearly behind him before. Gasly's harvesting and Alonso isn't closing up anymore. Now Verstappen's locked up. Oh, God. The tyre race is going every which way with lockups. Vettel, oh, hang on. By pushing Vettel's tyres, we've actually inadvertently got him on range. I was only pushing Vettel because Bottas was closing in, and then I kind of forgot about him. I think Alonso is struggling. Don't really know why. But as we enter the final laps of this race, Alonso appears to be struggling because I was harvesting with Gasly and Alonso wasn't closing up. In fact, I could possibly even harvest now with Seb a tiny bit, conscious of Bottas, of course, but... And by a tiny bit, I mean literally like 3 corners, because that gap got quite dramatic within 3 corners. Well, 2 laps to go, including this one, and Vettel's still in the back of the 2 Alpines. Gasly is still clear of Alonso now. There is ERS in Vettel's tank, it's worth saying. As soon as Vettel starts the final lap, we will go full deploy on him. Although, actually, by the time he gets to the lap, he's used more ERS. For some reason, they use a lot of ERS in that last sector. I don't really know why. It's up to 50% now, so we're just going to full deploy for the remainder. Gasly's just happy to sit on what he's got.
You can use energy. Use energy. You can use energy.
No need to worry about Gasly's tyres. 1 lap remains. Not even 1 lap remains. Vettel is on the inside of Esteban Ocon. He's on the outside of Esteban Ocon now, which becomes the inside again. And Sebastian Vettel on the final lap has actually gained a place. Still has Fernando Alonso. Oh my lord, is Sebastian Vettel just about to do a madness?
Looks like Aston Martin have just
Ignore the replay. It's going to the line. Where's the camera angle?
Thanks, guys.
Oh my lord, he's done it.
Really enjoyed that. Well done.
What a ridiculous
Check
finish.
it, flag. Check
Mick and the Williams are still yet to cross the line.
it. Take all the pickup you can.
Latifi holding off Albon. Helped somewhat by a driver penalty to start the race and then Albon going off in the race, but still. Kudos to Latifi there. It's my first photo finish. Gasly, of course, who went off on lap 1 and was at the back of the grid at that point, still finished ahead of him.
Formula One has almost reached its conclusion this year. Meet us next time in Abu Dhabi, between the desert and the sea, for an enthralling finale.
Well, saying for the sake of the video, the Abu Dhabi race and the post-season will be separate videos. I'll release the off-season part as a separate video on the Sunday before the season starts again on the Tuesday next week. But Carlos Sainz has done an absolute madness there. He's actually finished ahead of his title rival Max Verstappen. Safety car helped, I imagine, but Charles Leclerc actually goes ahead. And I think, despite the fact we didn't see anything, that's the title for Carlos Sainz. There was nothing in that conclusion, but that's the title for Carlos Sainz. I believe it's the constructors for Ferrari as well, because there's only 26 plus 15, so 41 points. I mean, constructors-wise, apart from ourselves and Alfa Romeo, and the ones down here, final race is a bit of a dud. Can Williams get a point? Probably not. For drivers, though, there's still a lot on the line. Everyone from Sebastian Vettel downwards with a point to prove on their rivals. Bottas and Gasly between them. Ocon, Bottas and Gasly, in fact, have their own mini-fight in 8, 9, 10. Somehow that's only 469 points for Seb. Over 1,000 for Pierre, of course, and we gave... Oh, it's because, of course, he didn't do practice. That's part of it, but we did give Ollie Caldwell a full practice session. That's given him some lovely, lovely points. Does get an exceptional performance for the race itself. 10 overtakes and 13 successful defends. Yeah, Pierre had 14 successful overtakes and 16 failed overtakes. A lot of attempted overtakes for Pierre. And yeah, our profit margins take a hit because of Sebastian Vettel. This is why I can't re-sign Seb. But that's the race done in Brazil. Just Abu Dhabi to go. And as I said, Abu Dhabi will be out itself, and the post/pre-season will be its own video separate on Sunday. By the time this video goes live, both of all of that will have been done. So if you want to catch this stuff live, I will be typically 2 races ahead on Twitch from here on in. The links are all in the description below. But for YouTube, do the likes, do the comments, do the subscriptions. It's always helpful. Algorithms are a tricky beast. Until next time.